Thanks. All right, so thanks everyone for coming. Basically, once again, my name is Lyndon Price. I'm the founder of the chapter of the Internet Society here in RTP, and I've been trying to get it up and running for quite a while. So thanks everyone for coming out. What I want to do in this presentation is go over the various local issues that have prompted me to decide that we need to have a chapter here in RTP. For various reasons, I've decided that we're probably going to be based mostly out of Raleigh, and I'm going to be working with Dr. Silva to base this mostly out of NC State, since they've been the most cooperative. So the four different issues that we're going to be looking at is access, diversity, technical issues, and policy issues. So let's go ahead and take a look at let's go ahead and just look at the broadband availability in Wake County, just as an example to start off with. So as you can see, you see the legend down here, and the colors are a little bit messed up on the projector, so I apologize. But we have pretty good broadband availability throughout Wake County, as you would probably expect, right? But if we start to look at the way the broadband availability is in other parts of the state, so this is from the NC Broadband organization. It's a governmental organization. They basically went to all the different ISPs and asked them, where do you have lines that give certain availability, certain speeds, what we classify as broadband? And 1.5, that's debatable. But anyway, so we have a pretty good spread here. If we go to the next slide, we can see the 10 megabits per second. And then the next slide, 50. And I mean, you can guess where this is going, right? So 100. I mean, that looks terrible. And then finally, 1 gig. Look at this. That's pretty absurd. And what you'll notice is that Wake County kind of vanishes on this one. But Wilson has a little dot there. We'll get back to that later. So here is probably the most shocking statistic that came up when I was studying and researching for this presentation, is I wanted to determine how many people in North Carolina do not have access to the internet. So who in 2015 doesn't have access to the internet? It seems like an absurd question. But if you look at the U.S. Census Bureau, they did a study on this during the census in 2012. And what they determined was that the internet penetration in the United States is only about 81, 82%. That's pretty shocking by itself, and you probably think that sounds low, and it is pretty low for a first world country. So North Carolina is even worse. 33% have no connection to the internet, have no personal connection to the internet. I would say that that's a pretty shocking statistic, and I looked into it, and you actually see the breakdown where they say there's no connection anywhere, no connection, but they can connect someplace else, or connecting at home, etc. So obviously a lot of people have access to public libraries now where they can access the internet, but a lot of people neither have access either with a home internet connection or with any kind of a mobile device. So like I said, it's pretty shocking, the idea that we think we live in this era where everyone has access to the internet, and even though the Internet Society promotes internet access to people throughout the globe, you would think it wouldn't be necessary in the United States, but it really is. There are lots of places in the United States where it isn't available. But not only access doesn't just mean is it available. Access also means, is it cheap enough for people to be able to afford it? Are the speeds fast enough for people to want to use it? And what kind of competition, what kind of choice do we have about who provides our internet? So that's issue number one. Issue number two would be diversity. You know, in a lot of other parts of the country, they don't have the same quantity of African American population that we do. Of course, I'm not going to go through all the statistics about that, but the point is that there is actually a gap in internet availability for African Americans. You see the statistics here, about 7% behind for internet usage and about 12% behind for broadband access. Obviously, we have issues dealing with women as well, and that is mostly related to representation in technology. Paul was talking about the IETF, getting more women involved in those not only technical groups, but the organizational and policy groups that help set those standards. And we have a tremendous amount of diversity in the triangle that we're going to try to want to pull in as a part of the chapter. I'll talk about that in a minute. So here's an issue that also deals with technical issues. So here in RTP, we have several technical businesses. For instance, I work for Cisco Systems. And one of the big issues that came up was the heartbleed issue. The way that the local corporations deal with these issues really is going to determine, it's going to have huge effects on the global internet health. So there are decisions being made at businesses around here that are going to have a global impact, particularly when you're talking about a company like Cisco. And this also goes for IPv6 adoption. Paul mentioned it a second ago about how some large organizations, once they get on, they're able to pull other smaller groups on. So that's the next issue. And then finally, we have all kinds of policy issues here. I promise I'm not going to turn this into a political rant. Like Paul said, this is a completely nonpartisan thing. It just has to do with internet policy, making it actually work for the people who live here. So obviously there are these national debates going on concerning net neutrality, censorship, privacy, and copyright that will affect people who live in North Carolina. But there's also few specific issues related to the town of Wilson. So what happened to the town of Wilson was they put in gigabit Ethernet into their city. They then decided to start branching out and putting internet access out beyond their town borders. And North Carolina passed a law saying that they couldn't do that. Wilson took it to the FCC. The FCC eventually overturned it and said that they would be allowed to extend beyond their borders and offer internet access. So there are some elements of the local government that are sort of working against those increased competition and allowing people to put in local municipal internet access. All right. So those are all the issues. So then the question is, what good is a chapter going to do? Can having an Internet Society chapter here in RTP help us with any of these issues? Well, one thing that we can do is we can promote increased access and competition. So like I said, Wilson went to the FCC, the town of Wilson, went to the FCC, and they eventually were able to be allowed to spread their services outside of town limits, which is great because then it also affected Chattanooga, Tennessee, who had been wanting to do the same thing. So the things that we do here in North Carolina to help these, to help a town, to help an organization, can end up having a national or a global impact. So what we would do specifically as a chapter is we would help reach out to these organizations and kind of help educate everyone involved about the specific issues that are coming up. All right, in terms of increasing diversity, that's pretty easy. We can reach out to underrepresented groups. We can allow access to decision makers, give them forums that they'll be able to participate in. We can host forums like that and provide resources for participating. So the Internet Society website also has online education courses where you can learn more about this stuff, about internet policy. Those classes are pretty good. And we can also provide other educational material as well. But there's an interesting article on the website talking about how they supplied a grant in order to found this. Basically, it's this service where in Nepal where they actually allow women access to online health information. Now, you might think this is not Nepal. What are you talking about, Lyndon? But we actually have a little more in common than you might think. There are lots of places, particularly in the Appalachians and the more rural places in North Carolina, that have very similar issues to this one. And there are local organizations who are trying to find solutions to problems exactly like this. How do we get better health care information to young women? And so something like this would also be applicable to North Carolina. So, all right. I included the big three. I apologize if you're from somewhere else. That's okay. I also apologize for putting Duke on there. But anyway, so another solution to this is to collaborate. So to collaborate with local government. I've already gotten involved a lot of different business leaders. Cisco obviously is going to have heavy involvement. We can have IETF members at Cisco. Cisco obviously, because it's a networking company, has a lot of IETF members who we can maybe bring over into the sister organization. And then we have academic stakeholders, like I said earlier, with all the universities in the area with very strong engineering and computer science programs. All right. And the last thing is to educate. This is something that I think I'm most interested about doing, and that is holding sort of these public education campaigns. A lot of the times it's not about trying to make an argument one side or another about saying net neutrality. It's about just explaining to people so that they can understand the issue intelligently, so that they can understand what the issue is and how it affects them, or if it affects them. So, here's basically a little map I got from the Internet Society website showing all the different chapters in North America, roughly. As you can see, there's New York, Colorado, San Francisco, Washington, Philadelphia, and I would like to stick one in the South. My motivation for doing that is just because I think, and I think I've made a very good argument based on my presentation, that we have very specific issues that are not currently addressed by any of the chapters that exist. So we need a chapter here in North Carolina. We need a chapter here in RTP. And if you guys would like to help me form that chapter, just let me know, and I look forward to working with you guys. So, and here's basically what you can do. If I haven't convinced you to join the chapter, I want you to join the Internet Society. You can join as an individual member, as Paul said. If you don't want to make that commitment to join a chapter, there's a ton of stuff you can do. You can stay up to date on the issues facing the Internet globally. You can become an advocate for Internet policy changes. And I know a lot of you are technical people. You can apply your technical knowledge to maybe make the Internet and the world a better place. If you do want to join the chapter, then you can get involved with me hosting events and campaigns and doing stuff like that as well. So, and that's pretty much it. So I guess my ask here is that if you are not currently a member of the Internet Society, please join. If you'd like to join, I have a laptop set up. I can get you signed up today. If you'd like to join the chapter, then just give me your name and some contact information, and then we'll be reaching out to you about how to become a member of the chapter and about chapter activities.
That was fantastic.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, Lyndon. So, yeah, good job. Any questions for Lyndon? Got to be a couple out there. Ready to sign up? If you're not ready to sign up, you better ask a question. So.
I guess I would ask maybe what might be some of the first objectives once the local chapter is formed.
That's actually a very good question. And you asked me to mention this a second ago. Yeah. And that is what's already been done. Pretty much all the basics have already been done. I already have other people involved. We've written bylaws. We have a P.O. box. We still need to find a place to have regular occurring meetings. We're probably looking at NC State for that. We're going to be working with Dr. Silva maybe to set up someplace on campus. Like I said, this is going to be primarily a Raleigh and a NC State-based endeavor for now, just because we don't want to overreach. We do want to get all the other universities involved, but if we start, having what they call like a traveling tent show, where we try to have it in too many places at one time, then we're just going to end up confusing everyone, and people won't be able to attend. So one of the primary objectives will be getting that regular location where we can meet. Then we'll probably be working on doing membership drives, and then what I'd like to do right out of the gate is start working on a public education campaign around the issue of some of the issues that are occurring nationally. And I think that'll both help us get members for the chapter, increase visibility for the Internet Society, and educate the public. So
I think that's a really good strategy in trying to build a chapter in one area
right.
to start and to have some of these regular meetings. There's probably opportunities for people to apply for officer positions and official positions in the chapter, I'm guessing. Have those already been filled, or how is that coming along?
No, the officer positions have not been filled. The first regular meeting we have, there's going to be elections. So if you still want to become an officer in the chapter, you're more than welcome to show up and to run for president, vice president, treasurer or secretary. So pretty typical. So that's, if you really want to get involved, you can do that. Obviously, we're going to have a group of founding members too. So no, we haven't had the elections yet. So
yeah. And it's pretty neat to be a founding member of a chapter. I mean, you're definitely starting something that likely will live for a very long time. I think that I joined the DC chapter. The DC chapter went through a kind of like a rejuvenation process probably about, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. And I was part of that. At the time, I was working for Verizon, and we were hosting all the meetings at Verizon, which was kind of neat. So yeah, it's always something nice to be able to say, or to put on your resume even, that you were a founding member of a chapter of the Internet Society. You know, a lot of you probably haven't heard about the Internet Society, I'm guessing. If you have, it's because you're probably a more technical person and have been interested in how the Internet works. So I think that if you do get involved, and especially I know some of you are students here, and you go to meet with a company and you have Internet Society on your resume and you say that you were involved in launching a chapter, I think that's going to get some attention, because the Internet Society has an incredible reputation inside the group of people who actually work on Internet policy and technology issues. Anyone who's involved with IETF will know of the Internet Society, so it's kind of a neat thing for you personally to be involved in, I think, for, if nothing else, just for your career progression.
yeah, and one of the things that we'll be trying to do also is to try to diversify the stakeholders involved. You know, obviously we have people from Cisco and from different corporations. We have academics involved. I'd like to get some other civil societies involved. That's one of the things that we've been asked to do. So that would be high on our priorities too, to try to get a very diverse membership at the chapter. You know, when I first started trying to put this thing together, I tried to maybe go a little bit too activist and deeply technical, and I mixed up with some people who like to argue about Pokemon a lot rather than talk about internet policy issues. So now I'm trying to maybe work with people who are a little bit more attached to their communities, involved with their communities. So I'd like to get some, like I said, civic organizations and community organizations involved.
Yeah, since I'm close to the DC area, I'm very involved with the DC chapter. And in DC, we have a number of organizations like the Center for Democracy and Technology, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and others that, you know, do a lot of kind of more of the civic advocacy type work. And one thing that I thought would be kind of neat is, as you all start to launch this chapter, we can have some interactive meetings where we have a group of people in DC meeting and then have you meeting here, and actually have kind of a two-way live meeting. And one idea might be to have even the people at CDT have a meeting with you, and I'm sure they have some people who are part of CDT in this area, and they could potentially bring them in to help launch the chapter too. There's a lot of ways that I hope to be able to support you through this process, and I'll do everything I can.
Thank you, Bo.
Okay.
You're talking about meetings, so I was thinking, well, two questions. First, I mean, how often do you envision the chapter meeting or the regular meetings?
Maybe once a month, maybe.
Okay. And the other question is, you also mentioned about the regular conferences of the other chapters that sometimes, what is the name, the acronym for the conference again?
Sure, yeah. INETs.
All right.
INETs.
So I was wondering if that's something you envision developing here as well, and I'm thinking of the connection with NC State and academics and professors. And this is definitely a topic that would be of interest of, some of our departments, and how could we go about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I'm wanting to work a lot more closely with different universities to get some technical academics involved and some policy-based academics involved in helping set things like that up. Obviously, I can help with a lot of the basics of setting it up and getting the membership energized and that stuff. But we need to get more people involved on that level who have interest in those topics. Because if they do, then they'll find a very welcome place to contribute.
I can speak to what, again, I've seen in other chapters, and the DC chapter is the one I'm absolutely most familiar with because I talk to them every day. They have a very close relationship with George Washington University, and George Washington University regularly holds meetings on internet policy. The whole school is focused on policy issues. They're very renowned for that. So it's natural for them to have those type of meetings, and the chapter usually partners with them in their co-branded meetings. So you could do that here, or if you wanted to have more of a technical meeting, you could have an engineering, like a co-branded meeting, and that works very well. And they've been doing that for a number of years now, very successfully. I wanted to mention our live stream page. I think y'all showed it to you all earlier. But if you go there and look at that, you can see events, and you can click more and more and more, and you see that there's 100 events over the past couple of years that we've streamed. So you'll get a taste of the type of events that we have. Like all of those ISOC DC chapter events have been streamed. If you have events here, I'm going to make sure they get streamed like we are today. And it really gives you a good idea of all that's happening in the Internet Society. Sorry about that.
Any other questions? If not, then I'm not going to hold you guys here. We finished a little bit early, but that's okay. You guys can help yourselves to some more food if you want to. Or if you want to maybe approach me and ask me any questions in person, if you're afraid of the microphone, that's okay. And we'll hang around for a little while and answer your questions and get you signed up.
Can I just see a show of hands of how many people think they do want to be involved? That's pretty good. That's
wonderful.
About 100%. So.
Yeah, that's great. No, we'll definitely meet our membership target. So that's great.
So one thing I want to mention. So this says chapter information, right? So I think that it's important to note that Lyndon he's already talked about the process of launching the chapter. There will be a point in time when Lyndon has gone through and checked all the boxes, and we have a list of things that have to be done before a chapter is actually launched. And then at that point, all of your names would be listed on a document of founding members that will be circulated to all of the other Internet Society chapters around the world. And they all like to, if they happen to know you, they're going to say, oh, we love these people. You definitely, we support them. Usually that's the way it works. And then after that's done, the chapter would be launched. So that would happen over the next maybe even few weeks. So it's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming today.
Yeah.
It's really good to see you all.
Thanks, everyone.